Hey, Marv and Till, nice to see you. I'm
Hi.
talking through Jennifer's sale.
Oh, okay, good. I realized I had my sound off. I'm out of mute now. Good to see you.
Go ahead and mute yourself until they come up to your agenda item.
Okay.
Mr. Ward, Jonathan Ward, I can't hear you. And it looks like you're unmuted. But I would say the same thing for you, Jonathan. Just go ahead and keep muted until your agenda item is called.
Okay.
Hey, Susan. Glad you made it. Saw Joan earlier today, and she said she was going to be attending. So.
Okay. Here we go.
Good to see you, Mark.
Hey there. Have I got sound? Yep. Okay, cool.
Wait a minute.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Sorry.
Hey, Susan, can we start with 4 of us?
You have 5 that I see.
Yeah,
So only
5.
just Sean. Yeah.
Oh, I don't see Sean.
No, only Sean's missing.
Oh, okay. All right, cool then. All right, let's call the meeting to order, please.
Oh.
Would you take the roll?
Joan Eaton,
Here.
Sean Platt, Cindy Neely,
Here.
Nancy Hale, Mark Reynolds. You're here. Bob Hamilton
Here.
and Brett Ganzer.
Here.
All right. So can we get approval for the agenda, please?
Yeah. Oh, it's on it. Never mind.
Okay, we're good to go. Do I hear a motion?
Move that we approve the agenda as submitted.
Is there a second?
Let's second it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, audience business. Everybody that's with us is on the agenda tonight.
Looks like it.
Okay. So as always, Design Review Commission members need to recuse themselves if they've had any communication with parties concerning an application or personally involved with the application. So when that one comes up, please let us know. And first up, we have Jonathan Ward, 2041 Clear Creek Drive. Jonathan?
Mr. Ward. You're muted.
I am.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell us a little about your project, please.
I'm here for a window project. I'm at 2041 Clear Creek Drive, and I'm looking to put in 6 new windows. They're the same size, same color, with a white trim. They're Champion windows, vinyl, energy efficient. Yeah, basically some of my windows have cracked from wind and rocks, and looking to replace those. In addition, there's a deck door that it's currently kind of like a French door, but it's sliding glass size, and I'd like to put in a sliding glass door to my deck. Same size, same color.
What's the address of that house?
It's 2041 Clear Creek Drive.
Oh, okay. That wasn't on my.
Mr. Ward, the trim that goes around the windows stays there.
Yes,
So you're essentially replacing the insert.
correct. There is a metal siding trim that's already there, and so yeah, it's just the insert.
Does the new door look the same as the old door?
It's the same size, but and the same color trim, but it would be a sliding glass door versus like a 2-panel swinging door.
Solid glass, one pane of glass in each door.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a picture on, I guess, the 8th page of my application of the existing door. Yeah, that's it. It has a black screen that's just a bug screen over the left side, but without the bug screen, the left and right are identical, and it's large glass panels on each side. So we'd be looking just to change it with a sliding glass, which I think would look substantially the same. A little bit less.
Okay. Anybody have any more questions, or do we have some sightings?
I have some sightings. We're in book 3, section 3, chapter 12, page 93. Item 3A, window and door openings should correspond to the overall directional emphasis of the structure, since they are a 1-for-1 replacement. We're okay there. And vinyl clad windows should have a matte non-reflective finish. I guess that's item B1. And I think that's the only 2 things that really apply.
Okay. Not changing any sizes. Anybody have anything else? Can I hear a motion?
I would move to approve the application for the replacement of the windows and the sliding glass door at 2041 Clear Creek Drive as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Against? Okay, thank you.
Very much.
All right, thanks for coming.
Thank you. May I log out now or?
Yeah, we're done with you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Okay. It's not big enough for all this. Okay, Jessica Schoening, 1600 Main Street.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to get my video to come on, and I'm not sure that it's going to work, but I can still speak. So we live at 1600 Main Street in Georgetown. We are trying to get approved a 8-foot cedar fence for our backyard. We have a couple of reasons that we went 8 feet with it. One is just due to the different slopes in the backyard. We have 2 80-pound Husky dogs that we are trying to contain and not let them get out. And the second reason is we have some property behind our house. One, there's a junkyard back there. And then 2, there's a cul-de-sac that's been, I guess, annexed by somebody who lives on Silver Cloud. And they parked a travel trailer right behind our house, which is kind of impeding the mountain view that we have back there. And then same with the house to our left, just kind of has a little bit of a junkyard in the side yard. And so part of it is to contain our dogs, and part of it is to kind of fix the views that are being blocked by other things.
Cindy, do you have any?
Well, I think we all have it. It is in your packet. When Kent,
Oh, I know. The fence is already up, correct?
yes, the fence is up, but the law is the law.
Oh, I know. I know.
And what Kent's review of it, his zoning review of it, points out, section 17.20.010, which, absent a duly approved variance, no fence or wall shall exceed 6 feet in height as measured from its pre-existing natural grade. And we, of course, we have never approved walls that are above 6 feet.
There's actually parts of that fence that are 9 foot facing the junkyard too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that while we are, you're understanding of the fact you're screening yourself off from something you don't particularly want to look at, for us, this is very precedent setting. It also indicates that in a front yard, fences and walls shall not exceed 4 feet in height from the pre-existing grade. And that front fence is not on the front property line, but it's certainly front lawn.
Well, and I don't think it's a fence at all. I think it's a wall.
Looks like a wall.
Yeah.
In parts of that fence lines around the neighbors, there's parts of it that are the same height as the neighbors, but then there's parts that exceed the neighbor's fence. and there's a real difference in grade. I realize that, but still, it's well over a foot tall in some spots and 2 feet along the east, 2 to 3 feet along the east side facing Buckley's yard there.
Okay, so where to start?
And the fence should be transparent, allowing views into the site. And this is not exactly that.
Well, this just is not a style of fence that we've ever approved for any place, you know, solid wall with horizontal slats like that.
I guess my question is, did the applicant even come in and get the guidelines and read them before they put up the fence? If not, the contractor should have, if he's a local contractor.
Yeah.
We did use a local contractor to, you know, do the whole landscaping project and fence.
Okay. How, you have a retaining wall back there also, don't you, that he put in?
Yes, yes.
How high is that retaining wall?
Oh, you know, I'm not exactly sure. There was already a retaining wall there and we added
Okay.
onto it. So there's a couple levels. There was a really high retaining wall that's probably 6 feet towards the left side of the backyard. And then there was a short, like maybe 2 or 3 foot retaining wall in the back. And we did level some of the lot and add to the back retaining wall to make it probably around 3 to 4 feet.
Because anything over 4 foot has to be engineered. But since it was existing, you might be able to forego that. But
I guess
that's the other thing is that fence sits on top of that retaining wall. So really in the backyard, if you go by yard grade, that wall's 12 feet above the yard level.
Right. It has quite a slope, which is why we did the horizontal pickets, because we kind of brought it down with the kind of grade of the property, you know, to keep the dogs out, to have it all be tall enough to keep the dogs from getting out.
12 foot's pretty extreme. But,
Well, and I think we're faced with something, you know, we couldn't possibly approve this. This is against the law. And the law is pretty straightforward. This isn't a guideline. This section that Kent has quoted is not a guideline. It is in our municipal code. And we can't possibly approve something that is,
There's the code.
yeah.
I think the first thing that they would have to do would be to apply for and see if they could get a variance, which, I mean, against the code. And then, you know, just hypothetically, if that were to be approved, or then they would need to come to us and with the design of whatever it is they wanted to do. None of that obviously occurred. So, I mean, we're at a point where there's really nothing, you know, we have no authority to approve what's been done.
Yeah.
No, and I think that the law also is pretty clear. If they want to go for a variance for something, they have to take that fence down before they can go for a variance for it.
Yeah.
And that's, again, I think that we sort of hand this back to the town and say, you know, the DRC cannot in any way act on this because it is not in keeping with the basic law.
I just
Yeah.
want to add, you know, we've had tons of neighbors and people coming by asking who have built the fence. They love the fence. They think it's a gorgeous fence. All of our neighbors have stopped by to see it and see the yard. So I haven't had any real complaints about people not liking the fence. Aesthetically, everybody's been super impressed by Brad's work. And, you know, I find it hard to believe that this is not aesthetically pleasing, but the trailer parked illegally on the property behind us and all of the, you know, the other inappropriate things that are around that are kind of impeding the gorgeous Georgetown views of mountains and slopes are okay to stay there. I mean, back behind our house is a cul-de-sac that's been annexed by someone who has had like a volleyball court and a pool and a trailer and all kinds of stuff back there. You know, and essentially what's a street.
Be that as it may, Kent.
Well,
You
those
may
are
not
things
have
that have to-
received, go ahead, Mark. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Those are things that we need to address, or you need to address with the town. It doesn't really concern DRC. And
Yeah.
I understand your frustration because I live up the hill from you and I view the junkyard every day of my life since 1976. So I can understand your frustration.
Well, and it's not about whether it's a pretty fence or not. It's illegal. It's just not suitable. And it would not have been allowed if you had asked first. Your contractor should have known that.
Yeah, and then we weren't asked by the contractor, or if we were asked, he did say he came into town hall, but it was a much simpler conversation if there was one. I did not talk with the contractor before. I talked with him on site. And and you may not have received complaints, Jessica, and it does look, you know, like a decent place or a decent fence, but it is too high. It does not meet town code. And I did send you the variance application if you want to proceed that route. I did give a warning regarding the front, the one that faces the front yard. It would be difficult for the board that actually would hear that, which would be the Board of Adjustment. It would be difficult for them to approve that. Now, the back one that faces the backyard or towards the junkyard, that might have an option. I mean, that might be an ability for the board that would hear that to approve that, but I can't say if they would or would not. It would take a process in order to do that. And if someone had contacted us beforehand, we would have said, you know, a taller than 6 foot fence always requires, just like Cindy said earlier, always requires a variance application. And that's just the rules in Georgetown. And I don't have the ability to waive that either as town staff.
Mm-hmm.
So the next thing that really needs to be done, if you want to proceed with this fencing, is to submit a variance application. The DRC can't do much more with it right now. They can either table an application or just say that they can't. I don't know what official motion you guys want to take regarding this, but.
So now if we just dropped it down to 6 feet, it wouldn't be an issue?
It would
It
still,
wouldn't on all sides except for the front, which it says 4 feet. That would still require variance to get to 6 feet.
Okay.
For the
Well,
one
4
that.
feet will definitely, I mean, not keep our dogs in. And I know Brad, our contractor, said he's gotten, you know, tickets for his dog getting out. And I also just don't want them to get lost or hurt. So 4 feet, I mean, I definitely will have to file a variance. They're Huskitas. They're huge. They can get out of anything. We had the same issue where at our house in Austin, and we built, you know, an 8 foot fence there. So yes, I will have to proceed to do that.
Okay.
And the other one is that it wouldn't be transparent, which is in the guidelines too.
For just the front part or the whole entire fence?
That might be part of the variance if it's an issue. The main reason for the transparency is, you know, to not have everything look walled off, but also wind here is going to be a huge issue when you've got big walls standing up like that. Cindy, what I was wondering on the front there, where it's even with the front of the house, and we usually say when there's a 6 foot fence because of dogs, that it can't proceed past the front edge of the house. So technically, is it, you know, if it's right at the edge of the front house across to the side, could that still be 6 feet across there? I'm thinking about dogs.
yeah, it's except that in the front yard. And, you know, it depends on whether you consider that front yard. I mean, one of the solutions would be to move that piece of fence back, so it doesn't appear to be so much into the front yard. Because it really, you know, I mean, appearance wise, because there's no landscaping, it's all gravel.
Yeah, well, it's also 2 feet taller right now than it would be if it did get.
Right, but I think that you know, the point is we try not to do that where it looks like it's part of the front of.
Right.
Of
Right.
the house.
And
Well,
I
and the
think-
reason I think it's that far forward on that side is because there's a side patio that comes off of the house, and then right next to that is the stone fireplace. And so I think that is right in front of the stone fireplace where they could dig in, because there was concrete, you know, along underneath the patio and where the fireplace was.
Overall, I would think that we would have to see what a Board of Adjustments decides, and I don't know that we actually are in this discussion until there is, you know,
The zoning issues are resolved.
until the zoning issues are resolved, yes, because we're not supposed to even put things on our agenda that have zoning issues. And this has a zoning issue. So I would like to make the motion to return it to the town, saying the DRC cannot consider this because there is a zoning issue. And actually, the guidance for DRC in the law says that.
Cindy, you want to make that into a motion?
Yes, I would move that we return it to the town, saying that DRC cannot consider this while there is a zoning violation.
Your second.
I second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so Jessica, we'll see this again if you can get the variance of the zoning worked out, okay?
Okay, perfect. I will work on that. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Mark, you can start the next one.
Okay. All right. Recommendations on the subdivision. Mark Geisness. Mark, are you on? I see you. Hello. Have to unmute.
I think I'm unmuted. Is that correct?
Okay, perfect. And for the group, I have to recluse myself on this because I own the lots next door. So Cindy, you want to take the lead on this while Joan's working?
Okay, and I'm ready to, so we can start.
Okay.
Okay.
So we did review this conceptually earlier. If you want to just give us a quick rundown on the.
I don't know how much detail you want us to reiterate. Craig Abrahamson, part of the development team, is on this call, I believe. And do you want him to go through the entire packet again or just give some highlights?
Does anyone want to do the complete review again? Cindy, I know you weren't here. No?
But I can read.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions, or is there anything in particular that may have changed since that first one that you want to point out?
I would hope that Craig would give it a general, you know, overview.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing has changed since the original submittal. We're kind of regurgitating what we did previously in I think a more formal process setting. By and large, we're evolving the. Sorry, I've got a dog here that's needs some attention. We're evolving the Washington Mill site, which is about a 1 acre site between Main Street and Bill Street into 6 residential parcels. Not proposing to change anything with regard to the requirements for the historic residential zoning district or the historic residential design review area. All the lots meet the minimum lot size. Generally speaking, the lots have about a 15% slope across all of them. And again, most of this is articulated in the submittal. Utility access has been resolved. Most of the utility access, but will be to Main Street. For the 3 lots, certainly that are adjacent to Main Street, those will be direct. For the 3 lots that are not, or for the 2, or there's 4 lots that have immediate adjacency to Main Street. There are 2 lots that have a secondary adjacency to Main Street, and those will be accommodated either through access to utilities on Biddle Street or via utility easements along the property boundaries between the lots along Main Street. And hopefully that made sense. If you have questions, just let me know. Yeah, there's nothing about this particular subdivision proposal that varies from the minimum requirements for the for new lot creation in the town's code. Maybe that's I probably should have started with that whole thing. But I'm open to questions at this point. If anybody has anything, I can bring the submittal up on a screen share if need be, and we can talk about it that way, or you can just fire off questions.
Just curious, were there questions last time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what they were?
The questions largely were around utility access, which I touched on a little bit, and I can dive into more detail. I think we discussed like orientation of the buildings themselves relative to primary access streets, if you will, so Biddle versus Main, and then kind of how they would appear topographically might be a good way to put that. And on that point, I'll emphasize that there's no request to vary from building height restrictions associated with the zoning district or design review guidelines. Each lot will be taken into individual consideration as it's for its particular building site and the particular building design. And certainly there will be a recognition that, and again, which is accommodated by the individual process. This is not like I'll compare it to Bighorn Crossing. This is not a sweeping design review consideration of multiple buildings. These are individual lots that will be reviewed by design review on individual bases. So they'll be reviewed in the context of applications that come before them, as well as based on the individual portion of the site that they're occupying.
Craig, on that, I might just add that it's our intention not to sell individual undeveloped lots. We are intending to sell finished product. Local architect is part of the team, and we want to make things sort of all fit together. That's why we're not selling individual lots. We're selling finished housing product.
Interesting. So we will see each one of them as they get proposed.
Absolutely.
Joan?
Yes.
What we're actually doing here is an advisement, right?
Yes. So this goes to the Planning Commission as an advisory matter, and I have our opinion or our take on the influence on several different things here. So when everybody has discussed enough, we can kind of go through those ourselves and do the answers. I'll fill it out. So whenever anybody thinks we're ready to do that, we can go ahead and do that.
Are these all intended to be single-family homes?
Yes, definitely.
That's all the zoning allows.
Correct.
I think ready, Joan.
Okay, so on the advisory matter, this is our consideration of the effects on, and then those are separate headings, The first would be street pattern.
Well, I actually think this is excellent, that these are the size lots that the rest of the neighborhood is platted in. This is very much in keeping with the size lots that you find that surround this property. As opposed, it would have been easy to say we'll make 3 big lots and 3 big houses, but no, I think that's a very positive, that it is lots that are the size that essentially belong to that block.
Okay. And they're not making any new streets or alleys or anything to interfere with traffic patterns.
No.
Okay, and then actually, so the first one was street pattern, and you answered the second one, which is lot pattern and shape. So does anybody have anything as far as street pattern goes?
No, the street pattern is being maintained, and so it's not changing the street pattern.
Okay.
Will you be doing anything at all on Biddle? As far as if they do anything, you look at where the
Nope.
lot lines run, and it looks like there's quite a bit of the existing street that's within the lot line.
Go ahead, Craig. Not really. If there's the street in, we're using the existing Biddle Street right away, and our lots are in adjacent to that. There will be 3 of the residential structures that face Biddle Street.
Okay, so you don't plan there's no modification to Biddle Street at all? Nothing intended?
Well, I think
No.
there's no modification to where Biddle Street is platted, but there may be some modification to where Biddle Street has been driven.
Correct.
So when you look at this, it appears that Biddle Street cuts into those lots, but that's because Biddle Street's in the wrong place. It's not because the lots are, Biddle Street's probably going to get shaped a little bit east through there, but it stays within its proper right of way.
Yeah, and I would say that Biddle Street does not encroach on the property to a degree that it affects the layout very much. There may be some slight modification, which will obviously work with Jules and Kent on if there's anything in terms of physical alignment. But having spent, frankly, the last 53 years screwing around on that property, I don't anticipate that it's physically going to present any issues in terms of how we either locate the building on the property or access the building on the property.
Okay, ready for the next one? It's maximum build out potential.
Well, I think the maximum build out potential here is 5 single-family houses, which is very fitting to this neighborhood.
Be 6.
6.
Yeah, it'd be
1, 2,
6.
3. Well, I just can't count. It's
Well, five more than you could do under the current configuration. So
Yeah. So, okay. Visual impacts.
I think overall, we knew this land was going to get developed somehow, and we can't really judge visual impacts until we see what these houses look like. So I would be sort of neutral on what the visual impact is at this point.
Okay, well, we have a say over what they're going to look like, but as far as it's appropriate to have a continuation of homes there in the neighborhood. So no real impact, or
Certainly doesn't have a negative one.
okay.
It's in keeping with the plan for the town.
Historic resource impacts.
I don't think you're really, we don't have an identified historic resource sitting on that mill site.
Okay.
It's not as though it has a structure on it that you're demolishing in order to do this. It does not.
Okay, so none. And then,
And actually, the lots themselves as designed are more square than our traditional lot, but the 5,000 square feet will take care, is 5,000 square feet. It will take care of that.
okay. And then cut and fill.
So I'll opine on the cut and fill piece. Our intent is to make the individual homes work within the context of the existing topography. I mean, certainly there'll be some modifications, obviously, to correct drainage issues and things like that, but it is not our intent to significantly modify the existing topography to accommodate the homes. The homes will complement the topography. There won't be any significant retaining walls. I would say that our intent would be to provide landscape walls, if anything, that are necessary to provide for, a backyard, things like that. But nothing that would make you go, oh my God, what have those people done? In terms of the topography of the property.
So no significant impact.
Certainly that's my personal intent. I'm a neighbor. So I have a vested interest in this, obviously, and on a couple fronts. And I know Marv has a very specific vision for what he anticipates as well there. And the property, again, while it may appear steep relative to the road, it's not steep from an engineering or construction perspective. So it really will not be a problem to accommodate what we need to accommodate with the new residences in the context of the existing topography.
I strongly support what Craig just said.
Okay, so somebody on my board, do we feel like there's not a significant impact then on cut and fill?
Yes, well, at this point, we do, because we haven't seen
Yeah.
what they would project for any cut and fill.
Well, there's no intention of it.
Yeah.
And then any other comments or recommendations in particular? Nobody?
No.
So I just need a recommendation then. Anybody? Mark, are you talking?
No, I
Okay.
can't.
Well, I know you lit up, but I was like, you don't get to say it. Okay, so our recommendation is that we would approve, or we would recommend the plan.
I recommend that we approve and move forward with the project.
We
Okay,
recommend that the planning commission approves.
Yes.
Okay. I would second that.
any more discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye, against?
I abstain.
Okay, official, so noted. Okay, so I think that's all we need.
Thanks, guys. We always appreciate your input.
Thanks for coming. Okay, and now we have the programmatic agreement among the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation and the USDA Forest Service. Do we have an action to make on this?
I'd like
Well,
to suggest that Cindy read it to us.
well, I would suggest it's
Hold on, let's try.
period. And I just picked it up today. And I would like to say, it says in the lead letter from Monty Williams, our forester, that that if we want to participate in the development of this programmatic agreement, please feel free to call Sue Struthers. Sue is well known to this town because she has been the Forest Service contract for the San Diego Mill Stewards for the last 6 years. It just changed this year, but she is. So I would like to call her and say, what kind of time do we have? And yes, we would like to take a look at it. This is principally because our landmark district runs up the hills as far as it does, even outside of our town boundaries, which takes it beyond this commission, but we're the certified local government in the landmark district. So if there are any comments we want to make, I certainly understand the Forest Service problem. They cannot wait to put a fire crew out there because they haven't done some sort of a survey. I mean, that's sort of ludicrous. So I do understand from their position why they want this document. But I'll read it and come back with a little summary and a couple of questions next time, okay?
Excellent.
Great.
Okay. We have one conceptual review tonight. I don't think anybody is on for that. Mike, are you on for the conceptual review?
Yeah, I submitted
Oh, I see. Okay.
and I was not expecting to be on tonight's meeting. I just realized when I was taking my mail out yesterday that you guys had this meeting scheduled, so I figured I'd just listen in. And then when I dropped off the paperwork, it was advised to me that it's possible that it could look under a conceptual review this meeting before it's properly submitted next month.
Yes. Okay, so you want to just give us a quick overview of what you're doing?
Yes. So we're been residents here of Georgetown in that house for about 3 years now. Moved in full time about 18 months ago. And we both wanted it when we initially bought the place, always saw some potential of doing something with it. And the more we got to know the town, in different structures of not only in Georgetown itself, but in Silver Plume and the other corridor communities, we wanted to try to reflect some of those design elements. And mainly those design elements are based off of old mining structures, mainly because the house, when we dug into it and going to the city and seeing the previous permits, it was once like a small cabin that's in the center, and then they built the front portion of the house that's actually cantilevered off of that original cabin. When you're inside, you can see the old cabin roof structure. And then the final in the 80s permit was the garage portion going backwards. And so to me, that shows 3 different eras of improvements on this property. And the house functions very, very well, even though it is kind of a funky layout. We have 2 different staircases that one acts as the 2 small dorm rooms and the other acts as the master suite up front, which we don't want to disrupt or change any of that. That happens to work really well. But I would like to show on the exterior when we reside this and expand what those rooms, they're like little den rooms, and try to make them a little bit more living space, that the 3 structures. And so my intent was to have kind of 3 different building materials to reflect that this was kind of hodgepodge together as it is.
What's the address that you're talking about?
603 Brownell Street. It's the brown house on Brownell Street.
Thanks.
Okay, so on the east side, I'm just looking at the east side, the side that faces the street.
Okay.
You're keeping the 3 windows, and you're keeping them the same size.
Yes. So there's 4 windows on that side, and,
Right.
and the building is just completely flat. And so I was hoping to, our architect suggested doing another bay style window in one of them just to break it up a little bit. I don't know if that window has changed size. I did not look detail on that print, and I can probably get that information by next month. But the other 3 windows, all the other windows we plan on just replacing what's there with the exact same sizing, with the exception over on the terrace is making it more of a French door style access to the terrace versus the traditional 36-inch man door.
Okay, and what would the, just stay on the east side for a minute. What would the siding be on the east side?
Think or batten, and now let me look at the.
It says weathered hand-hewn log siding.
Yes. So I'm not exactly 100% sure of the actual physical look of it. I haven't gotten as far as to where I got actual samples of the materials themselves. But I have seen, he did show me some pictures of samples, but I don't have those really accessible because I wasn't planning on going into that in this meeting.
So the whole, because I'm now looking at the north elevation, so that front piece of the house, I say front because it's the one closest to the road,
Yes.
would go to being log siding of some kind.
Yep.
And the middle piece of the house, which is the new addition,
Which has a new addition to expand that upstairs den room area.
is that already there?
So yes, we have two dorm rooms with two dormer type windows there currently, but it's sloped on both sides, and so that's the biggest modification is kind of popping that top to make those two rooms actual usable rooms. Because right now the ceiling height is like 5.5 feet right in the pinnacle. I mean, we put guests up there, and we did pre-COVID, would put guests up there on ski trips and stuff.
And that section of the house would be a,
Vertical siding.
except it says weathered horizontal 1x board siding with vertical boards.
Board and batten, I would think.
Yes.
I think that's the weather board and batten they're calling it, and to my knowledge, that is very similar to what you see with the vertical reveals that we see a lot of in the area.
And then the west end of the house pretty much stays as it is. No, it has,
He's doing a different siding material there. And that's where the garage is, correct? The west end?
Yes.
Yep.
That faces the south. The garage door faces the south. And the end of the garage is west.
And then that middle section underneath where the dormers, the second story is going to be a corrugated steel type material. And that's just the smallest portion. That's actually the original house, the cabin that was on the property many years ago, that area there.
oh, interesting. The windows on the south side, on the second floor, are a better dimension as far as the vertical nature of the windows. I think probably there are too many lights, but then the ones on the west side, but I mean east side, but you don't want to change the ones on the east side.
We're not opposed to it. I mean, we're going to be turning into it, and all those windows are pretty clear on the inside and whatnot. And we could probably relatively easily change the shape of those windows if there was a suggested shape that we should go that would better suit the area. the neighborhood that windows are used.
In general, our windows get quite vertical.
Okay, yep.
And while those on the east are vertical, they are not, the ones on the south are more the kind of, the upstairs on the south are more the kind of window that is common to us,
Okay.
more the size window that's common to us. The use of materials is going to be quite interesting.
And so on the east end of the south elevation, there's an upper deck, upper balcony or something. That front section is board and batten, the whole thing, or the bottom part says log, hand-hewn log. Is the whole wall that same log?
Yeah, you know, that might be a typo. I'm trying to find where you're seeing where he's calling that out. But yeah, to my knowledge, that whole structure up front with the terrace,
Yeah.
which is existing, but I mean, we're going to change the railing and whatnot and the structure of it, is same material. And then if you go underneath in the center, that's where it transfers into the corrugated steel. And we're modifying a bay window. We're subtracting a current bay window that's there now, put those double doors, and then the other bay window that you see going the west would have a different type of corrugated metal just to give a mix match appearance.
Okay.
And then we move into the garage, which is all one material.
Board
The
and batten.
garage is really invisible to anybody.
It's what?
It's sort of invisible. I mean, you don't
Nobody ever sees that.
you don't see that.
Yeah.
There's no public way from which that garage is particularly visible.
You do have a little bit, yeah. Our property on that side, we have our driveway, so you do get a vantage point to look down the whole house. But yeah, you definitely would see that it's a different material, I would imagine, from the street. But yeah, you're right. I mean, coming into town down Brunel from Argentine, you would have to look over your shoulder to see that. But people turning from 6 onto our street, they would get a good view.
One other thing is I look at the picture of the house the way it is now, though that balcony comes out to the front edge of the house, the balcony that's on the south elevation, and you're talking about shortening that so it sits back a little bit from the front of the house.
Yes.
Will it be the same size?
As far as I know, it's the same depth. But the reason that I requested to have it wrap around the front, and the architect reading your guidelines thought that'd be much more of a challenge to do for city codes. But I did want to not have it die right into the corner of the house, just for visual. It didn't seem right.
Agreed. Well, I think it's going to make it all very much more interesting.
Well, thank you.
What is the handrails going to be on the?
The not expanded metal, but the welded metal.
A hog wire type stuff?
Like a thicker gauge hog wire, I guess is the term. I should know better terminology of that, because we own bars down in Denver, and I've done liquor cages with the different types of materials, and I should know probably how to call the sizing better, but I do apologize, I don't.
Okay, and then wood framing around it?
Yes. And looking to do more of a coarse rustic timber as the supports versus the kind of the trying to be Victorian thin supports that they have there now.
Okay.
You know, this is going to be very interesting as we go through the guidelines, but this, what you're doing is accentuating the characteristics of the house that you have.
Yes.
And it is not, it's may be in a historic residential area, but it is not a historic house.
Yeah, cool.
So it might get very interesting, but
At least, yeah, give it a few more years.
yes.
So, yeah, it's a historic one, but,
I like the idea of the different materials on this, the garage and then the center section and the front
Yeah.
section. It really sets them off as different time periods. Separate sections.
so do we need to see materials for this application when it comes in?
I think if it's possible, that would be a really good idea.
Anything in particular or everything? The log, I'd kind of like to see a sample of. It says rough hewn log with chinking, so it will actually look like a log cabin instead of that new, round, shiny.
Right.
Yeah. So I kind of like to see that.
I would too, actually.
And as far as the corrugated steel, or is that going to be like a weathered, kind of a rust finish or a weathered look? Won't be shiny.
Yes, well, that's what I put as a request, and he sent me pictures, but we didn't really get into the nitty gritty. He was just kind of threw me examples, because I threw him examples from other ski towns and other areas I've seen, it plays. And I would hope that the vertical corrugated steel would be a different pitch and different material or different product line than the horizontal, not just like we just take that material and flip it, to make it really look like it's two different corrugated steels altogether.
Okay.
And I will try to find samples, because right after I get this call, and I appreciate I didn't expect to be in front of y'all tonight. And so, but this gives me a great understanding that I should go ahead and get all the materials, because I don't see a big solid no against this right now. So I will put forth to get those materials, because I too would like to see what he is proposing as well.
Okay. Anybody else have a request or anything that he should note before?
Yeah, with the corrugated steels, we might want to know the different sizes, if you're going with different sizes or.
Yep.
So.
Okay.
And maybe to know what the different board and battens are, because you have two different styles of board and batten showing.
For sure.
Okay. All right, great. Well, good. We look forward to seeing it too.
Awesome. And then the next month it is always on Thursday, I assume?
It's the second and fourth Thursday.
Of every month.
Oh, you meet twice a month?
4 weeks.
Yes, and your application has to be in long enough to be posted before a meeting. So it'll have to be in 2 weeks before the meeting. So if it comes in the week of the meeting, it'll be on the next meeting.
Okay, yeah, I was under the impression that it probably would be a month out. So because of, I just submitted yesterday.
You can make it a month if you want to.
Okay. All right.
I would like to make a suggestion to you that in our guideline books, in book 2, that you take a particular look at chapter 7, which starts on page 63, because it basically talks about general guidelines for architectural features.
Okay.
And we probably will be looking at a fair amount of those. Some of them relate to historic structures, but you'll see that some of them don't. And so.
Okay.
On materials, the only other thing we did talk about are the windows and bay windows and things. Are those wood? Are they metal?
They would be metal cladded, I believe. It's the Marvin, I forget which line, but I can get a sample of that too, or more details on those as well.
Just more details.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Cool. Well, thank you for the time, and I look forward to seeing you in the near future.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Have a good night.
Okay. So we have minutes.
Oh, you know, I think there's one thing that we should mention, and I know that I think that Kent may have signed off. No, he's there. Because we mentioned to Kent that or I mentioned to Kent, and I think Mark has also, that the Bighorn is having a bit of a struggle with dark sky. They're sort of lighting up the night in the apartment houses.
Oh, okay.
And so essentially we asked, because the folks who live across the way, that's a little hard.
Okay.
So
Check on that.
because I am sure that we referenced in that whole Bighorn discussion, I know that we referenced dark sky.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Is Kit still on?
But I think,
Yeah, I had to switch back to Jennifer's because mine
Okay.
froze on my machine.
All right.
I don't know what you said, Cindy.
So it comes back to us.
So out at the Bighorn project, they seem to not be very compliant on the apartment buildings with the dark sky. And we need to check into that.
Yeah, I'm meeting with the general contractor tonight.
If it's just construction stuff going on now, but if it's permanent, we need to dial that down.
The lighting that they have installed now is permanent. It's in the hallways. And those are open hallways to both the north and south. It's open fluorescent lighting, and it looks like a parking garage.
Wow, yuck. Okay. Well, we'll sit Kent on them.
There you go.
Okay, so we got minutes.
Good to me.
Okay, anybody got anything then?
Looks good.
I don't have anything.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second? Did you second, Bob?
I second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Yeah, did you all get a bunch of packet stuff with 1600 Main Street? Is that not for tonight?
Isn't that the one with the wall?
Yes.
That's the one with the
Yeah.
fence.
Oh, that's the wall.
The one with the wall. Yeah, Susan, we already did that. Were you not there?
Oh, yeah, you did. Okay. Just honor.
Look at your minutes.
Well, you know what? We did include that last approval because that wall wasn't on there. And so.
No, you didn't mention the driveway, but it's not a big deal.
They do not have a certificate of occupancy for that house yet because of the driveway, and will not get one until she's aware of that issue. She was told before they bought it or while they were still looking at it that was the issue. So she's been apprised of that, and it still has to be stained because that was on that first. I think that was why that was in there, but we didn't get into
I'll just dirty it up doing construction.
Yeah, well, okay. All right, so let's adjourn. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Night.